That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll figure this out.
Yeah, I think the guy was just a golf.
Yes, we're going back away, so.
Call this meeting to order, 6:30. Would you all stand for pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So all council is present. General reports, 4.1 meeting minutes for December 2nd, 2019. Need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from December 2nd.
I'll step in.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. 4.2 department reports as submitted. Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the reports as submitted.
I second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. 5.1 special presentation from RSU 16 school budget. Mary Martin and Ken Healy.
Are we up here?
Yep.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much for allowing us to come here tonight. Also with us is Amy Hediger, who's our assistant superintendent somewhere in the back. There she is. She keeps me on track. What we wanted to do tonight was come and talk a few things about budget, as we did last year. One of the things that the school board had been very succinct with me about over the last year and a half was there has been a number of years that the professional staff and also the support staff have been regionally underpaid. So they had made a very honest effort trying to get those salaries up for them this coming year, which is the coming 2020 budget. And had done negotiations with both teachers and the support staff over the last several months. And they based their approach on a community survey that they sent out. And 70% of the respondents said that our teachers are paid too little. They also said that our support staff is paid too little. They said, some of them said I get paid too much money, but they're probably right. So they, the team went and did some really good negotiations with both the support staff and the teachers, and we'll be looking to try to get the teachers and the support staff to the average of our region. Okay, it's not above average, but it's to the average. And with the percentages that they were agreed upon, I think it'll get them right to the average. For the first contract, for the first year for the teacher and the support staff, it's 5%. So I'm sure you probably remember last year we did bring in a budget that was under for the previous year. And we put a significant amount of undesignated money towards the budget. We plan on doing the same thing this year. We also have the a very strong feeling that there will be increased subsidy that will come in from the state. I met with the commissioner today with my other superintendent peers, and we will be receiving not only $135 per student for the administrative costs. If you remember, under the previous administration, administrative costs were cut significantly by $94. That will be reinstated. The full amount will go for that, and because we belong to a regional service center, we'll be receiving an additional $94 per student to help offset that as well. And also there's some additional subsidies that it looks like it's going to be a good increase, not a significant increase. So between the money that we have in our undesignated fund we can pay towards, and also the additional plan on additional subsidy, we should be, it won't be a break-even, we'll be asking for an increase. To what degree to that is, I don't know. In February, beginning of February, we'll get our ED 279s, which is our subsidy form, which will give us a really good start from where we are. Our focus this year is trying to increase the salaries of our employees. Although there will be asks by my administration and my teachers for other things, it doesn't mean we don't need them, but we need to focus on this particular one thing this year. So I wanted to kind of bring that to your attention. And the survey results were very, very direct, I believe. Now, last year we did have a representative from you folks for the budget committee. And I don't know that we've received, have we received the name yet, Zach? Okay, so if we could get somebody, but I do have a handout for all of you about our upcoming meetings as far as the subcommittee meetings and the board meetings as well as the referendum, so everybody has a copy of that, so I'll pass it out when I'm done. Additionally, we want to talk just a little bit, any questions about what we're focusing on the RC 16 budget? Okay. We also have a pretty significant completion of an operation coming to fruition with the addition of the middle school. And it appears that on Monday next week, we'll have a ribbon cutting at 7:45. It'll start in the auditorium. All you folks will be getting an invitation to that. And we're also going to have an open house later in the afternoon from 3:30 to 6:30 for anybody who wants to, in the community, wants to come and see what the new building looks like. Ribbon cutting is going to be kind of invitation only, except for the middle school students, because there's going to be so many of them. It'll be the first opportunity for them to get into their new wing and actually be able to start classes on the 13th. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to get there. It's beautiful. They have done just a fantastic job. We still have some things that will be completed even after we receive the building, and landscaping and stuff that will happen in the spring. Move those trailers out of there. They're up for sale too if anybody's interested. We'll put them out there. And then it'll look by the springtime, early summer, it'll look pristine. So I'm really impressed with the work that they've done. The contract was exceptional. Our architects worked very hand in hand with them, and we should have stay within the budget that we were provided. So I'm pretty pleased about that. Any questions about that? Well, I invite everybody to come to the open house, and all of you to come to the ribbon cutting. I appreciate that. Mary?
Just kind of wanted to add a few things to what Ken had said. In terms of our budget process, just want to talk a little bit about how important it is to us that we have as much community input as possible, and that process is as transparent as possible. As our budget committee, I'm going to chair that committee from Mechanic Falls. Also, Scott Lassard is on that committee. Mike Lukas from Minot, Ed Rabasco from Poland. Ken is on that, Stacy, our business manager, and then a representative from each of our towns. So we look forward to having a representative from Mechanic Falls. And it will start out with the committee meeting, and that's a good opportunity for our community committee members to have some input. There'll be lots of opportunity for them to hear the budgets from every department, to ask questions, to share their opinion, to raise any concerns. And that will be at the end of February, beginning of March. And then they will present with the school, to the school board, a proposed budget that then will go to an informational meeting. And at the informational meeting, we hope that there's lots of community input. That's an opportunity for anybody in the community to give us feedback on that. And each year, that meeting has been very important to us in terms of making some final decisions in terms of priorities. So along the way, there are lots of opportunities, and we also encourage anybody to have questions email us, to call the superintendent's office. We want to make sure that we address your concerns and your questions. And in April, it will be finalized from the school, by the school board. So up until April, all of that community input is extremely important. And then it's the two-step approval process, one at the district meeting and then at the referendum, which is also an opportunity for community members to share their votes and how they feel. Kenneth's right, our strongest priority this year is the teacher salary, teacher support staff, and hopefully we have our bus driver contracts also taken care of by them. But as we've been doing those, we do recognize the need, that we need to meet the needs of our schools, but we also need to balance that with the capacities of our communities to support it. So we have kept that in mind. But the things that we've had to consider along the way, particularly around the salary issues, was one is that our state is requiring within 3 years that all of our beginning teacher salaries are at $40,000. So the contracts that we've come up with have to have that as part of it, and then the steps beyond that. As Ken said, our survey that we sent out, 70% of our community members felt that teacher salaries were too low. 54% felt support staff salaries were too low. 59% felt that our bus driver salaries were too low. And only 42% said that we were doing a good job attracting and retaining staff. And as a school board, that's extremely important for us. We're able to not only attract staff, but retain staff. And when we have staff that leave, we do ask them, why are they making the choice to leave our district? And generally there are two answers. One we can't do much about, which is they want to be closer to home. The other one is salary. Those are some of the considerations that we've looked at. And also, the first contract, when we became an RSU, there were 3 separate contracts within our 3 towns, a different one at the high school. So what we've been working on since then is to pull those together so there's some equity for each of our staff members, that it's not different depending on what school or what town. And that's been a process. So the contracts that we've done since then have that's been what we've looked at mostly, is trying to get that equity within our 3 towns. We've gotten to that, and now we need to look at making sure that our salaries meet regional averages, which they have not. They've been pretty significantly below. The contracts that we've just negotiated will bring us closer to regional averages. And again, as Ken said, there are some things we've taken into consideration when we're looking at our community's capacity to support our budgets. And salary is going to be our priority this year. There are going to be minimal increases in other areas because that's what we need to do right now. We need to focus on that. And we will utilize as much fund balance as we can. As we increased it last year, we're hopeful to be able to increase it again this year so that that will lessen the impact for our community. So we encourage you to give us some feedback and stay involved in it. If there any question you have, we certainly will do whatever we can to address it. Have any questions?
I do have one question. What is the average starting salary for a teacher? I know you said 40 is what
It's 35,500.
That's good. And that's just first year
Yes.
in the system, or first year as a teacher?
First year as a teacher.
As a teacher.
Any other questions?
And the state is requiring all
40,000
40,000
within 3
starting
years.
age?
3
Within
years.
3
We have
years.
3 years to get to that. And so the contracts that we negotiated, that was one of the things that we had to take into consideration. We had to have our first step at $40,000 within 3 years, and the contracts that we negotiated.
And the state's gonna kick in a little bit of money for that?
Well, that's part of their dynamic. We'll see what happens when they get the subsidy out.
Okay.
And we do encourage you to attend the open house at the middle school.
Thank you.
comments from the public? Keep it at 5 minutes each, and please state your name and address. And if you please stand. Start with Paula.
Paula Stobbs, 87 Sandpiper, Mechanic Falls. I have some requests. First, I would like to know how the investigation into the Codes Enforcement Office is going, please.
I just asked Zach, and he said that Lou Goulet is in charge of that. So I need to talk with Lou.
Our ordinance and our charter both say that that's supposed to be a council thing, that the planning board is not supposed to be involved in any way, shape, or form with personnel issues.
Okay, I will check that.
Okay?
Wait. Just let me write it down.
Yep.
Okay.
Number 2, and I would like a yes or no tonight to this one, please. I would like that all planning board meetings, for now and forever, be recorded the way the town council monthly meetings are. I feel it's very vital and pertinent. Julie did an awesome job taking notes, but they're so informationally filled that she's left to try to gather just basics, yes or no's. And there's a lot of interaction in there that the public really needs to be aware of, in my opinion. So I would like you guys to say, yes, we're gonna record these meetings, or no tonight, please.
If the council wants to put them on the council discussion topics, we could add it there.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
is that okay? So we'll add that there. Okay.
Since September, the planning board has had multiple applications brought before it that they should never have had brought before them. In October, there was a request for a 7-room mini studio apartment at 5 North Street that they wanted to be 165 square feet. And our ordinance says an apartment building can only have a maximum of 4, and they have to be a minimum of 250 square feet. And Fred, the Codes Enforcement Division, informed the planning board that they could violate the ordinances and do a variance. If a variance is to be given, it's not supposed to be done by the planning board, it's supposed to be done by the appeals board. And it's supposed to be done before the application is presented to the planning board. The Codes Division presented not 1, but 2 applications for medical marijuana storefronts as well as adult recreation to the planning board and wanted us to decide on them, when our ordinances, and he was well aware of this, didn't cover that topic. And legally, the adult storefront shouldn't have been addressed until after it went into effect statewide, December 5th or whatever it was. Even though I brought those topics up, and Lou and Ant said, hey, let's send this to the council, the Codes Division said that the council gave the planning board permission to do whatever they wanted in regards to making that happen. So things were done that, in my opinion, and having talked to Shelley Norton at AgCog, were illegal, which caused us to scramble with you folks to come up with the proper ordinances to be in place so that the permits that the Codes Office had issued that were not legally issued could be valid and not put the town in a position of being financially impugnable. Then, at December's planning board meeting, the codes department brought before the planning board Sally's auto repair for us to do disciplinary action. It is not the planning board's place to be doing enforcement. It is the codes office's place to do enforcement. If the codes office, if the person disagrees with what the codes officer says, then they can ask to be heard, and they're supposed to file an appeal to the appeals board. The codes office, or the planning board is not in any way, shape, or form supposed to be involved with those things. So I am gravely concerned, and I've gotten more and more every month with what's being presented, what we're being told is okay. I also ask that more training be given of the planning board. Everybody that's on there is relatively new, and they need training.
Okay, so for training, I'll get to the other ones in a minute. Training, is that something that you've seen online through MMA? Are you asking for?
Yes, and I have told the codes office about it. The codes office, my opinion is, the codes office has blown it off.
Okay.
And
So-
I personally have had to be very forthright and say, okay, this training's here, I would really like this. And when the codes office hasn't responded to it, I've had to go to the town manager, who in turn has seen that I got that training. And the more that training I get, the more I find out how much we as a planning board have been breaking the law for years.
Okay, can you do me a favor and just write all this stuff down? And then you can give us all a copy, email it to us, can you do that?
I can't email it, but I can give you paper.
That's fine.
So, and I'm here as a very concerned
Because-
citizen, because I don't want us with the planning board to wind up in a position where we can be sued. And some of these things,
Okay, and then the second thing is would you get me, if you have classes that you think you should have, or the rest of them should have, would you list those, tell me where they are? Can you do that?
I will get a hold of MMA tomorrow, and I will find out when they are and what they detail.
And we'll
The other
start with
thing
that.
for you to be aware of is that at that training Tarshan I went to, the attorney there informed everybody in that room that the legislature passed a law that went into effect September 19th, that all members of all committees, doesn't matter if it's the planning board, the rec board, whatever, is required now by state law to physically go to an that Freedom of
FOA.
Information Act workshop. They have to do it physically the first time, and then it's an annual thing that they can renew online. But that everybody's required now, not just elected officials.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Do I wait for the agenda items to talk about the rec coordinator position or now?
Probably wait, please. Anybody else? Okay. Old business, 7.1, 22 Pleasant Street update. Zach?
I caught up with the realtor on Wednesday. He is launching a strategic social media campaign, but he had said that there has been slim interest in the building so far. He does want to try and set up a time to meet with the council to talk about listing it again, modifying the listing come spring. Mondays he's not available, so
Probably not.
no, unless we could find either a smaller group that may want to sit down with him and we can report back. He will keep providing written responses and updates. If you want to have a conversation, this is Mondays are not gonna work.
Okay. So how do we'll have to do a special meeting with them? Can you put that on the agenda for, figure that out?
Okay.
7.2 council discussion topics. Someone had asked me about how the update, wanted an update on the code investigation, and as I just said, I will need to talk with Lou Goulet to see where that's at, and I will report back at our next meeting, next month. Do you guys have anything else for council discussions? Well, we need to get the information first.
Well, isn't there one she wants to recording it? Is that something?
Oh, yeah,
Isn't that-
yeah. That's
Zach, is
what
that
she
your,
wanted.
or is that your videotape or is that the town?
I bought it from my designated funds, but the town uses it as a.
So you're okay with the planning board using it
Yep.
on their meetings?
So, someone has to make a motion.
Make a motion to record the planning board meetings each month.
I second
Any further discussion?
Do you want them published the way that I publish the council meetings as well? We just render it,
I
so you
think
can
so.
have to.
Yes.
it. On the webpage?
Does that take long to put together?
That's definitely take time.
No.
You just set it and walk away.
Okay, so can you,
I'd like to add to my motion to put it on YouTube at the council meeting recording.
Second.
any further discussion?
And all their meetings are held here?
Yep.
Okay.
All those in favor? Unanimous? And is that it for council discussion? Okay, we'll move on to 7.3, rescheduled Dawn Garish workshop, available January 6th through the 9th or January 14th through 16th.
Is this evenings?
He said days or evenings work.
I'm available whenever. What about you?
Yep.
Whenever?
Whenever.
I can do,
You can do whenever?
yes.
Keith, whenever?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so whatever you decide, we can all do.
During the day, during the evenings,
Either.
we would be looking more towards the week of the 14th to the 16th, giving
Right.
public notice. So I will reach out to him in the morning and figure out.
Afternoon and evening would be best for me. I can.
I'll shoot for afternoons.
New business, library trustee appointments.
Need a motion?
Yep.
I make a motion that we accept both Patty Dyer and Laura Vincent as applicants to the library trustee committee as new trustees. I know their characters very well. They're well suited for that position. I think they'll do very well.
I second the motion.
All those in favor? Eight point two, budget committee schedule.
We are anticipating it's the same schedule as last year. We are requesting our department head budget requests to be in by the 31st of this month, Lisa and I will sit down, we'll have 2 weeks to iron it out and put together the proposal. And I'm still loading it, so I don't have it in front of me. In the meantime, what I do want to point out and put out another request for is we have 2 vacancies on the budget committee. And we do have another council meeting between now and the next time we would be convening the budget committee. So if there are people who are interested, we've got a couple of vacancies. So if people are interested and get their applications in, we can get it potentially on February's agenda so that we can have a full budget committee.
I make a motion to accept the budget committee schedule.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? 8.3 Recreation Coordinator position. Would you like,
I was unable to attend the meeting because I had the council training, so Justin, if I could refer to you, that would be great.
Can we come up or?
Yeah, sure.
So, with Ashley's departure and new job, congratulations. She is finished 6 months into the year term for 2019-2020. And as a rec committee, we have formally requested that a person not be hired to replace her. And to go beyond that, that the remaining funds, which would be half her salary, I think it was a little over $15,000 was the total yearly salary. So the remaining balance be applied to the rec budget and given for us to use for programming. So those are the 2 things that we're formally requesting from that position and moving forward.
Was that position benefit to you at all, to the rec department?
In what way?
Well, I don't know. We had hoped that that position would help you out a great deal with administrative, collecting money, taking care of the field. I think it's one of those positions that we're gonna have to hire time and time again because like herself, she'll get a better job elsewhere. Do you think it's necessary, that position? You run it all down there, do you not? And your volunteers?
Our volunteers run it all. I am fortunate to have great people to work with on all of these things. You know, if you remember, we advocated against having a position in the very beginning. I think to Ashley's credit, she did a wonderful job of seeking out things to do and ways to help. Obviously with a peer, when you bring on anybody, they don't have that same drive. Clearly, that's why she was hired, for another position. That said, I think there was a deficiency in what her role was or what it was outlined, and then the ultimate responsibilities that she was given. We spent a lot of time working through creating standard operating procedures and ways in which we could find work for her, but it wasn't for our support for running the programmings that we have, it wasn't a 20-hour-a-week position. We knew that, and she was very helpful in helping organize the different activities. To your point, collecting money, being there when others that are working aren't able to. But then there's challenges because she was only working, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, right? Or unless we had special requests, and then she'd move her schedule around. So those things were really tough because we don't necessarily operate 8 to 5 every day or whatever the hours were. So a lot of the things happen after work, on weekends. So when there was a need and we gave her enough notice and it didn't conflict with her other schedule, then she was there for all of that. She jumped in whenever we needed it. Again, it's more of a personal credit to her and not the position. The position, required a lot of attention from us and from the volunteers. When you're, in any job, you need to train somebody on how to do stuff. But when you're volunteering, you want to make sure that every minute that you have put aside for programming, for coaching, for officiating, for fundraising, goes to that because you only have so much time a day. And so those were things that, you know, we spent a lot of time teaching. And where this being one of our first roles, jobs, out of college, out of you know, her previous experience, you know, I don't think that there wasn't anything to draw from. So, you know, I know Jay, Brian, and I treated her more as like a, you know, an apprentice, if you will. Like, hey, you know, this is the proper way to write an email. This is the proper way to talk to somebody when you're engaging with a parent that is upset about something. You know, this is how we dial it back just a little bit and empathize. Those were things that we spent a lot of time on, and that was more to her credit as a person, not the role.
I'd like to make 2 motions. Number one.
Start with one.
Number one.
Wait,
Untitled-
excuse me, can I ask Justin a question prior to your motion, just because I'm afraid it's gonna contain this? What if there were to be a smaller stipend, say, for the president of the rec? My understanding and hopes for a position like Ashley would have been to take care of the calendar, to deal with the funds coming through the computer, to organize the stuff that you would have to send out for permission slips or registration sort of thing. If you utilize the snack shack, you know, maybe stocking the snack shack, things that a volunteer that's trying to be with the kids and help out with that stuff doesn't have the time to put in, is what I was thinking this position was gonna be for. So what if there was even a smaller stipend for somebody to be able to do that, and for one particular person to hold the calendar, because that kind of seems to be a rec issue.
You mean the soccer calendar?
The calendar for all of the, you know, all of the field use and that kind of thing, so
Yep.
that one person is organizing that, because I do believe that it goes, being on the rec for many years, I do believe it goes above and beyond to deal with all of that stuff, but I also feel that somebody needs to, and it shouldn't possibly be on a volunteer to do that particular job.
Right, so I don't disagree necessarily. There are a lot of administrative tasks that
Right.
go into it, especially during certain points of the season. I think
What's his name?
the challenge with that.
Justin.
Yes.
You're supposed to be talking to her, and so is she. You're not supposed to be having a conversation between the two of you.
My apologies.
No, I don't mean,
So-
you don't have to move.
No, it's fine.
You don't have to move.
I can address everybody. It's okay.
Well,
My apologies, I just feel as though somebody should make the statement to
and you should
request.
stand up too, please, when you're talking.
Pam Grondin, 266 Elm Street. Somebody should.
And since I've interrupted you already, isn't the reason that we had the coordinator something to do with the charter and everybody answering to the council or the town manager?
That wasn't the original reason for the coordinator
Oh,
position.
it was, well,
He
I guess I
answers.
misunderstood.
You're the department chief.
Yes.
He answers to us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think the original reason why we thought they could have some help, because they do a lot
Yes.
for this town. And we wanted the accounting so that it was easier for them, which I think is happening, correct?
Lisa's done a really great job of taking in anything that we have. I mean, Ashley, at the position, you know, aggregated and collected a lot of information, including money, and gave that to Lisa to enter in. So, you know, now with that layer gone, I don't think it doesn't put a lot additional pressure on any of the volunteers to continue to collect money, but she did that, Ashley did that, but the accounting was still done, you know, from the town. Lisa continued to do that regardless of.
Right, and I think Ashley was going to do it, and wasn't there a problem with access or something?
The access of the
Because-
funds, and that's what we were trying to streamline the process to be able to get it, the town employee who has access and authority to sign checks. And that's really what we needed to establish.
Because that was removed, so nobody on the actual rec committee has the ability to purchase anything with rec funds as volunteers.
Oh, so you can't purchase anything?
I
We'll
don't have
still
a
need to
card.
follow the
I
same
don't have it.
purchasing policy that any other committee or department follows.
That was
Really-
removed. So, so the position that she held, I mean, and yes, she signed checks, she did those things. Again, the request for her not to be hired, or not, the position not to be rehired, has, more to do with those funds could be better used within the programming, specifically for the Snack Shack. So, we've come up with a plan for the Snack Shack going forward, that we would actually apply that towards, so that we don't have to do additional fundraising. So, last year from the town, we got $5,000. That doesn't actually run any single program, so everything else is we're reliant upon fundraising, and we have the lowest registration rates in the area. We've raised the registration for our first program in 5 years, or at least since I've been on the board, which is 6 years. This year, and that was $5. And that went a long way to actually covering the cost of some of those things. We have some very generous businesses in town that, year over year support us with jerseys. And then, our fundraising efforts, from the cash calendar to chocolate to tagging, all have a 50% or higher net profit, which is why we do those programs. So we don't sell candles where you get, we sell the things that we do net us money. That allow us to, do those fields. We have tournaments coming up in the next couple of years and commitments there that'll allow us to make more money. We've done a lot with all of those things. The position itself is not useful in terms of a day in and day out thing. Pam, that's a great idea, and maybe having somebody that's close to the town. And Miranda, when she was here, for example, we would pay her to clean the bathrooms because she wanted extra hours. And if we had somebody within the town that we could allocate those types of things, that has the ability to work within the structure that we have here and coordinate with the volunteers, then that would certainly be helpful in collecting money for cash calendar, or registrations are all done online, so we don't take anything personally from that respect, so I don't have to worry about that, fortunately. Ashley did also start a couple of programs, but we also have a standard operating procedure for a new program to come in. So anytime a program comes in, it's funded by itself. We might take general funds and start it, but within the first year, it'll be running on its own. So we have plans in place for how to do that and ways in which we've done that. So none of our programs run at a deficit, but that's because of the hard work and the program, the procedures that we put in place to be able to do that. So that $8,000 or whatever balance is remaining from her position, now that it's vacated, would go a long way in fixing the repairs on the Snack Shack. It's no longer going to be a Snack Shack unless it's specifically warranted for an event. We found better ways to, change its configuration and make it storage, because we have, important equipment that goes down there now. So, those are all, it'll still have the functionality if necessary, but it's not going to be an active Snack Shack. Unfortunately, that is a volunteer spot that we haven't had any one specific request from tournaments or teams or enough action down there, to warrant it. And then two, we don't have anybody that's got that Snack Shack, excitement in their blood. So there's no interest in that.
All right, thank you. I want to suggest, I don't want to make a motion yet, but I'd like to suggest we put that position of rec coordinator on hold until the next budget. In the 9 months that I was liaison to the rec department, I was just very, very much impressed with what you people do. I'd like to make a motion that we give them the rest of the money until, with this budget that's left over from Ashley's position. I would like to make a motion.
No, I wanted to, before I vote on it, so are you saying this is like just until the next budget, and then we reevaluate?
That's correct.
We need a second before we discuss.
Right, we need a second first. Before we
I'm not
discuss.
prepared. Okay, well, I second the motion,
Mhm.
but I would like to discuss
Discuss.
that it only happened, that it's going to have to be reevaluated
That's correct.
with input from the rec committee and volunteers and people like
That's
Pam who made a suggestion.
Whatever money's left from Ashley's salary that we were gonna give it to them, let them put it into their Snack Shack or whatever else they need. It's a bonus this year for the rec department.
My only question is, because I don't think I was at the meeting when it was discussed initially, sitting out there. In June of 2018, this was voted on with the general public. I think it was question number 15 on the ballot. And it was to appropriate $18,500 for the rec budget, and it passed. Was there anything written in there stipulating that part of that money was going to be for a salary? Or was it just general funds going to the rec committee equaling $18,500?
Very good, I'm not certain.
The way that it's presented to the community as a budget with a breakdown which had it split as salary. The way that the referendum is worded, it's open-ended, and within the departments they can spend money as long as they don't exceed their total department budget. They can use the funds in there argumentatively the way that
I just want to make sure before I vote that I'm not being disingenuous to the public that voted to pass this.
That's a different question if it's legal or disingenuous. I can't help you with that one. It's
So-
legal for them to do it, and they can put in a request to use that money for something else, and as long as
Other
we're
than a
not.
salary.
Correct, and I can double check, but I don't see, as long as we're not moving money from another department, that's the only thing that we'd have to get council approval to exceed it, and we can only really do that at the end of the year anyway, to move money between as an emergency appropriation process.
Because the exact wording on the question, it says it's going to the rec budget.
Which was a concern of the rec committee at the time of the ballot, and led to a specific campaign from the rec committee to ask the public to vote down the budget that year, because we were informed at that specific time that it was only available for salary, and that we wouldn't be able to use that for programming. So when the ballot came out and the word choice that made it onto the ballot, we requested and made a campaign to inform the public that we were opposed to the way that the question was worded, and we were willing to not have our $2,500 of that went to programming that year to not have the position. Now, we were all fortunate to have actually be the one that took that and are better for it, but I don't believe that would be something that we would advocate for going forward.
What you're saying is, Zach, that we can take the remaining funds and reallocate them to the rec department if we want to.
It's already their funds to request and
Oh, okay.
utilize, and
So it's already there?
And we can authorize it, yes. There's fungibility within the department budget, so they can request it and would have to process it. We still have to follow the purchasing procedure policy for the right level, right dollar amount that we have to follow. We'll still go by that, but.
So if they don't use the money, though, it drops down in the general fund?
I'd have to double check that one. Because I know that what we passed on the warrant last
Yeah, I
time
think
was
it
for
does.
all of the
It does.
fundraising. But your fundraising you keep.
Right, correct.
Your fundraising, everything they raise,
Anything
that was
comes
what
from
we
the
passed
town,
last year.
the way I understood it was that, like the $5,000, we used $4,995. $5 would go back to the general fund, is how I understood it, which is why we always make sure we use it.
I have another question. Can it be used as a stipend then? If it's not a salary, can they request it be used as a stipend?
So, in the distinction that we make is that with the committee, they're not employees that would really fall under the manager's purview, and that's the distinction. And in a committee, and I can double check with Jack, but I don't see a reason why they couldn't have a stipend position, or like you essentially pay committee members to do the work. Like we stipend our planning board members, we stipend other committee members as well. That would be an option for that. And it doesn't get them, say, what we have with the police chief is a stipend position, but that is a town employee as in a stipend position, which does fall under the manager side, where the rec committee itself falls under the council.
So you really don't need your motion anymore, do you? And the other thing was, she was doing all the signing of the checks, so you could have your money to buy stuff. If she's gone, who's gonna do that?
Lisa has been doing that.
Lisa's been doing the money too?
Yeah, and when she's not available, Lisa was doing it.
All right, thanks.
We're actually playing way better now, thank you, actually.
So do we need a motion? I mean, do we need anything?
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
So what you're looking for, do you want me to work it into my budget or do you wanna work it into your budget that we're gonna start in like 25 days for planning for that? Cause you mentioned that you wanna take the time off this year and maybe re-present it next year, or not?
Well, I just wanted to, because it was voted in like that it was a salary position, but he's requesting that it not.
In this past year, it was voted again, but it was different because it was its own question, or it had its own, so it was taken out of the rec budget. So the way it was presented the first time, it was as if the rec committee was requesting $18,500 for, and in fact, it was people would come up and ask what we're doing next. And when it was, because it wasn't clear based on the wording, what the money was actually for. So the following year, we were able to get it separated, so the rec budget was separate for $5,000, and then the position was allocated independently.
Okay, so you're asking to eliminate the position, correct?
Yeah, we're asking for the position not to be rehired for the remainder
And then
of
the
the
second-
6 months.
You
Do
want the money?
you want me to budget it for next year or no? And that's all I'm looking for kind of guidance. And I completely get it.
Well, for the next 6 months, we want the money. For the after, for
I got
the,
that.
for the budget in 25 days, we can continue that dialogue. I don't know yet. We haven't had our meeting to discuss the outcome of today. So that would be my request, is that possibly.
Okay, yeah, we have a motion and second. So the motion that you made, can you read that?
To give the rec department the remaining money that Ashley was to be paid on her salary. And we will, we have to make a motion. That's my motion.
And you second.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Yes.
I don't know if we want to go back to that position or not, but I certainly would like input from you, with Tarsha at your next meeting. Do you want that position? Is it good for us? We had great intentions for a rec coordinator, and, we were lucky to have Ashley. But if, I'd like to hear.
Did you figure it out in your budget?
Yeah,
Whatever you guys
we'll look
want.
at all the options and look at, there's new information presented this evening, which now we can evaluate and determine, how that's gonna best support, not just our programming, but the other programs that, she's created and, plans for future stuff. I mean, there are, ideas and, more importantly, people that are actually willing to put in the time, effort, and energy to create those opportunities for the rest of the community. And so, however we can manage that best, I think we'll do what we can. I think there is some value in having, somebody paid to do that, whether that comes from, members of our committee or that comes from somebody, close that knows both. Certainly we can utilize those types of talents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One last thing. Missy, you all right with that? What we
Yeah,
discussed?
absolutely, I just had questions, yes, perfect.
Eight point four, Historical Society location.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank you all very much for getting involved with this historical society. I mentioned that we wanted to move it someplace where it was better, and we had 6, 7, I think maybe even 8 different places that we could move the historical artifacts to. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
Oh. We had a good, when it was mentioned the last month, Larry Roy gave me a call. He had 2 rooms available.
Excuse me, Eric,
Sorry?
you gotta turn around or stand over here or something. Why don't you stand there,
Okay.
that way we can all see you.
Is this better?
Thank you.
Yes. So, we had Larry Roy called me up and said, listen, I got 2 rooms available, next to the, in the, bottle redemption place. And they were empty, and he said he's more than willing to give it to the Historical Society for a nominal rent of $500 a month, including utilities and everything. We thought that was a wonderful offer. Because it was 2 rooms, it was plenty of room, plenty of space. And we went in and took a look. And then Bill French, who was a member of the Historical Society, also he's renovating the old Mason Jar building and the Chinese restaurant. And he said, well, you know, I could actually formulate a plan where I could get the Historical Society in the front of the building with the window display, also for storage downstairs in the basement. So we had, and again, it was the same. It was a little less than Larry's price of including utilities and everything. We thought again it was wonderful. But the thing is, talk to Zach, and for us to do any sort of a renting, it would have been like we would have had to call a special town meeting, like we had for the library, possibly moving to the railroad station, and that would have caused a lot of anxiety, I think. So Zach came up with a solution, a plan. He said, well, why don't we move everything? Why don't we move everything to the municipal building? Well, the municipal building was never brought out in our idea at all since we've been established. So I came over here the week before Christmas, and Zach gave me a tour. We can actually have the downstairs behind the stage in that room as a storage area, and we can use display area in here. We have glass display cases, we have tables, we have shelves. We can use the walls for photographs and documents. And we think, and we had a meeting following after New Year's, the struggle committee, that we would love to come to the municipal building and put our stuff here, and it would not cost the town anything. So that's what we voted upon as a committee, to be able to move what we have in the church. We're in a small, like an 8x8 room, just crammed in there, to get that out and have it back and be able to be a workable area and a viewing, visibility, and also be able to present programs in a more proper fashion. We'd love to have that register now. We have the school has this register from Merrill Denning Pharmacy way back. They operated a building on a corner of North Main, South Main, and Pleasant Street. And somehow or another, the school got hold of this NCR old-fashioned cash register. And Mary and the school principal there on Elm Street School said it would be wonderful for the Historical Society to have that, to be able to have that to the to offer to the town as part of the mementos of the town. So we will have a place for that, for sure. But anyways, that's where we are at this time. And we were just coming to the council to see if it's okay, if you want to take us in as...
So we are speaking about, and again, it was part of incorporating it into the new municipal plan. I really think that the reason it wasn't brought to the Historical Society before is we weren't necessarily going to be here, but we were talking about having display spaces in whatever building we put the town office in the future. Currently, Public Works is working with the library as well. We're finishing up the book drive and the remnants of that downstairs. So it is 2 storage rooms that are on the stage. There'll be those 2 lockable doors so they can put their stuff in there and keep their storage stuff in there. We're working on preservation, and then work in utilizing some of the historical stuff we have on the wall, but incorporating in some display cases and cycle some stuff up here in the hallway and in the vestibule where we can put it where it's not a fire code risk. And if the council would support that.
Paula?
Paula Stock, 37 Stanford Road. Question about security issues though. If you put it here, it'll be behind locked doors. Will there be certain hours set up in order for the public to be able to come in and view it? Will they have to make an appointment? That type of a thing needs to be thought about.
I think operationally what we can offer is anytime that the council room's not being used for a meeting, and when the office is open, the room can be open if staff is here and they can buzz people in like we normally do. We have the air crew that meets here once a week now, and we're trying to get more people to use the space that we have during the day. And I think it'd be easier from the operational point of view from the Historical Society, if they were a standalone place, they would have to have a volunteer in the building just to let people in.
I understand that. I was
Our
just
staff.
curious, since we've gone to becoming Fort Knox to get into this side of the building, how that would all take effect. Would we just prop the door open certain hours during the week, or would somebody have to make an appointment?
We haven't got that far yet. Our goal right now is to get it out of where it is. It's disintegrating, literally disintegrating.
Yeah.
We gotta get it out of where it is. And then we'll tackle these others as they come along.
We've had discussions and group meetings in here with the Historical Society before, so that's something that we've had, faced before, and it's no, I wouldn't worry about it, Paula.
Well, and my other question is, we have an agreement with that church that they were supposed to give our historical society X amount of space and X amount of display
No,
space.
no, we don't.
There's a
Not an X amount of space.
deed.
That's the problem.
But no agreement.
Ah.
So it just needs to get, let me see. It just needs to get moved
Yeah.
out of that place anyway. So even if we just give you the storage space, you never put anything up on the walls here,
Oh,
it
we
would be
would
better.
definitely put something on the wall.
Well, I hope that you would, but even if it's just that you moved it to the space to be better preserved,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
need that in the very least.
Excellent.
And we have the space for, we don't know how long.
I was surprised how much space that we could use when I went with tour of Zach 3 weeks ago.
Well, then I'd like to make a motion to invite the Historical Society to utilize the municipal building that we have currently.
Any further discussion? Can we work out details
Details.
to come? Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous?
So you guys don't think I'm all for it too. I was just have those questions.
Thank you, Ray.
8.5, notice to government entity pursuant to 14 MRS 8107. This was provided to provide transparency to the public. There's not a lot of discussion, well, there is no discussion on this. The town attorney was supposed to be here, but he is sick. So we'll, we have down further, we have an executive session, legal counsel, and we're going to postpone that, because we need to understand that also. I guess if you wanted to say something, you could, but I'm not sure that we could answer your questions. Any of you have anything to say? Okay. Ordinances, resolves, policies, and licenses. 9.1, Mechanic Falls Water Audit Engagement Letter. Motion to approve.
I'll make that motion to approve the water audit engagement letter.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Zach, is there anything else that needs?
If you can just sign those 2 tabs, those are the engagement letter for the auditor.
Okay. That, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
All those in favor? Adjourned at 7:34. I appreciate you all coming.